The prototype V3 33 is ready for the next run. I have the curved turn fin loosened up, positive 0.3 of a degree to the water. So the next step in the testing process. But we've had southwest wind for the last 4 or 5 days. So I have not had flat water where I can get out and run it. But in the meantime, she's ready to go, and I've done a few things to it. Found a really reasonably priced coolant line I'll talk about. So local hardware store. So I replaced all the coolant lines in the boat, and I got rid of the stock strut bracket. So I got double-sided bracket on here with 2 4mm bolts. So that will definitely hold my prop shaft angle with the new bracket that I've made for it. So until we get some flat water, looks like even for the next couple days, not gonna have the water to run it. Meantime, kind of going through the boat, doing what I can do to it and getting it ready. And I'll show you what I've got going on here. And we'll look at the difference on the V3 versus the V2 33. Here's a close-up look at my new strut bracket. So I have a piece of aluminum angle on both sides. So there's 4 bolts going through the transom. And I've made it taller, so I got 2 4mm bolts. When I made these new strut brackets, I matched these 2 holes. They were already drilled in the transom, they're blind nuts in. So these 2, same location. And I also matched this hole for the 4mm bolt that tightens the strut. Then I added length up top here for the second 4mm bolt going through these new brackets. So if you look at how this strut bracket's designed, the back side of the strut bracket has a bit of an angle, and it can pivot, gives it clearance back here, so it can pivot when you change angle, pivots around this bolt. And then in the strut bracket, it has a slot, vertical slot, to adjust it up and down. Well, it has more than enough adjustment than you ever need. So when I made these new brackets, dropped the strut all the way down on the bottom ski, and it has about a 32nd of a clearance. That slot is about a 32nd of an inch longer slot in this strut. So where I've put the second 4mm bolt, I got about a 32nd clearance above this bolt. So I still have all the adjustment I need, and then I drilled the holes in the brackets slightly bigger so that I could pivot the strut to change the prop shaft angle. And then I made this one on this side the same, although it's a left and a right, because it's extended at the top here, but same bolt pattern. I got 2 more blind nuts inside. So got 4 bolts through the transom now. So here's the new tubing that I have in the boat, all the way throughout the boat, the coolant line. And this tubing, it's kind of interesting. I bought it at L&M, $1.99 for 10 feet. So 1/4 inch OD, 170 thou ID. So it is, the ID is the same as this large tubing from Offshore Electrics, but the OD is smaller, so it's thinner wall and it's lighter actually. So I weighed all this tubing against what I had in the boat. It's about, not much, but it's about 1/3 of an ounce lighter, this tubing in the boat versus the tubing that I had in there. But I seriously doubt that I'm ever going to blow this tubing. It is still plenty flexible, so it's nice and soft, but it feels like a harder plastic. So hopefully I won't ever blow another coolant line. And yeah, $1.99 for 10 feet. So what are the differences between the V3 and the V2? I'll just randomly go through them and talk about them. One of them is the nose blocks. So the blocks themselves that come in the kit are shorter this way. So you are forced to sand a more blunt nose on there, so it's not as sharp of an entry point. Joe said they did it just for manufacturing, make them all standard. The R4 and I think they're smaller rigger, and he said it's not a lot of difference. There's not enough length of nose radius on a rigger frontal area, but that is a little more blunt, so it would theoretically be a little less pitch sensitive. The obvious change is the 10 millimeter boom rods. So that means the clamps and the boom tubes are bigger. And these are tubes, 10 millimeter tubes, not solid. So they're about the same weight, but a little more frontal area being thicker. So the other change is the stepped sponsons, just like the R4. So they're now on the 33. This is kind of neat. This angle goes this way. I think it's just cosmetic change versus going that way. So it's noticeable difference. I like that. And another big change is this curved turn fin. So I highly recommend anybody to buy as a replacement part this curved turn fin to run on any rigger. You can see these marks in here. It looks to me like, I'm guessing, but it's bent with a CNC brake, which means this curve is going to match this top surface. So you can set your pitch gauge off the top surface and you're going to know that it's just not bent by hand. See those marks in there? So very precise bend. And then the other really cool thing is they are machining the angle. You don't no longer have to file it. So it's a perfect angle. It's a shallower angle. And this fin is thinner. The version 2 curved turn fin was 90 thou thick. This is 75 thou thick. So a little less drag. That's pretty cool. So there's a different bottom ski on there. That's all I can tell you about it at this time. That's still very much in the testing phase, and I cannot talk about that. And then the last thing is the ride attitude of this boat when you set it on the ride pads and on the bottom ski. This is got 0.3 of a degree. It's 100 thou sitting down in the back. It's not running level. So that is what I am working with currently, testing. So that is like an aerodynamic change. And that's what I've been working on, testing how the aerodynamics come into play with that different ride attitude. Also, of course, with the bigger boom rods, there are bigger brass tubes in the kit that go through the tub. And they have beefed up the strut in the V3 kit. So physically, it is a thicker, stronger strut. So there's the update on what's going on with the prototype V333. I ran 98 miles an hour on 6S still on my last run. And so yeah, I pretty much need flat water to continue the testing. And right now I'm just waiting on glass.